The Queen's ride with President Xi in a state carriage was intended to personify a golden era in relations. But reports that British police had stopped a Chinese intelligence officer being inserted into that carriage as an interpreter are apparently confirmed by conversation at that royal garden party.
They also wanted to come in your carriage with an interpreter.
The Met Police tonight declined to comment on that and an earlier part in the same conversation when the Queen revealed her views about Chinese officials' behaviour.
Yes, I was the God Commander, so I'm not sure whether you knew, but it was quite a testing time for me. I did. It was, I think, at the point that they walked out of Lancaster House and told me that the trip was off. I felt...
They were very rude to the ambassador.
They were. Well, she was... Yes, Barbara, she was with me, and they walked out on both of us.
It was during that visit that Chinese student demonstrators tried to drown out and screen off Tibetan and other protesters. They complained at the time that they'd been given too little space by the police so as not to upset the Chinese. Many in the Foreign Office felt the visit marked their final defeat in China policy by George Osborne and the Treasury.
China policy was taken over by George Osborne and a number of people in the Treasury, obviously as his advisors, with the backing of Number 10.
That battle between those who wanted to put trade first and others who favoured a more assertive policy has ebbed and flowed throughout the Cameron years. His decision to meet the Dalai Lama in 2012 caused a deep freeze in relations with Beijing that the Chancellor in particular struggled to thaw.
It certainly is the kind of thing that the Chinese government complains about very publicly. But actually, if you look at what the Cameron government seems to care a great deal about, which is trade and investment, it had almost no impact at all. So the Prime Minister was not welcome in China, but actually business went on pretty much as usual. And you'll find that the Chinese are pretty pragmatic about this kind of thing.
In his fight to push past the Dalai Lama meeting, the Chancellor travelled to the east of China and embraced Chinese bond issues in London. As the prospect of a Chinese presidential visit grew, the Queen was pressed into the effort, meeting the Chinese Premier.
When arrangements were being made for the Chinese Premier Li Keqiang to visit, there was some quite robust remarks about the visit being cancelled if he was not granted an audience with the Queen, for example. And we seem to be seeing similar stuff. It all has to do, I believe, with the culture of a communist bureaucracy where officials are desperately keen to earn brownie points by pleasing very senior leaders.
So determined were the Chancellor and Prime Minister that President Xi Jinping's visit here last year should go without a hitch that they tried to ban various senior public figures from seeing the Dalai Lama. They asked Prince Charles, for example, not to do so, and for a written guarantee from Nick Clegg that he wouldn't either. In the past 7 months, some of the sparkle has already come off the Xi visit. But today, both the Chinese and British governments insisted it had ushered in a new phase of cooperation and trade.